We're hearing now that Harry's offered to actually share his official diary engagements with the palace in a bid to reduce those clashes we've seen so many times over the years. All right, it's a complex saga. How useful is this offer from Harry? Will it have an impact on the palace?
I would actually call it a cry for help from Harry's side. I mean, obviously his so-called empire is crashing down. Netflix is obviously will be wrapping up their contract that was worth $100 million for them. A lot of their supposed shows that they produced did extremely badly in Netflix's ratings. So they have shown that they basically can't exist outside the structure of the palace. And in my opinion, this looks like Harry crawling back and saying, please, please let me in, because I don't know what I'm going to do without you guys. And I think he should start with an apology first. We need an apology. We don't need sharing of dates. We need a proper reconciliation process if this is what he wants to do.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. What do you think it will take for there to be a mutual agreement? Do you think it's possible, or do you think it's all too far gone?
I think the really key thing here is that people don't start kind of blabbing publicly about what gets discussed. And so far, the fact that this story got published at all, the original story about this meeting, those photographs, which were kind of embarrassing for both sides, got published, threatened to blow this whole thing up, even when it was at this embryonic stage. And right now, both sides are being fairly mature about it, and there is still a willingness to work together on both sides. So that's positive. But they need to try to move past simply sharing diaries. Harry, clearly wants to sit down with Charles. I have a slightly different take on it to Samara, which is that actually, I think the moment when Harry was kind of shocked back into reality was when Charles got cancer. But he kind of got the cold shoulder. People might remember he just ran over to Britain straight away, dropped everything. Actually, Charles had known for a couple of weeks, but Harry seemed to find out right around about the same time we did. He dropped everything, flew to Britain, and then he only got about 30, 45 minutes with his father before Charles flew to Sandringham. He then came to Britain again in the May, that was the February. He came to Britain again in May, didn't see his father, but his spokesperson released a statement at the time saying he hoped to see him soon, and that still hasn't happened yet. So from Harry's point of view, I think that really is what shocked him back to reality, to realise that he did have to do more to help this relationship. And, I think Meghan, I'm not completely writing off Meghan's relationship with Netflix at this time. Clearly she is not going to become an interstellar TV producer, and nor is Harry. We've seen so much of the content that they've produced. The recent stuff has been very bland and very vanilla, and it's, nothing really is going to suddenly change there. And they're not going to turn into the next Shonda Rhimes, or, it's not going to happen. But Netflix has an equity share, they have an equity stake in Meghan's company as ever, which actually does have the potential to earn them huge amounts of money. One key thing, though, Harry has very little going on at the moment.
Well,
and
I was going to ask, because I want to talk to you about the Netflix deal, but before we move on from this, there was something that I found interesting. Is there was a period, as you've just mentioned last year, when Harry came over here and we were hearing a lot about sort of what was going on with their relationship. He was by his father's side, and he said that he wasn't able to catch up with him in May. There's been, after the BBC interview, a period of relative quiet in terms of where their relationship was at. Why do you think now, very much now, we're hearing so much about it?
I think it's...
Where's it coming from is, I guess, what I'm asking.
So that BBC interview was a huge moment, and Harry clearly experienced restraint collapse, basically. He'd clearly gone in. I'm sure that they had that interview booked in the diary before they knew the outcome of the case. And Harry probably imagined that he was going to go in there and give this plea for reconciliation with his family. Then he saw he'd lost the case and just was furious about it. And so he started, giving these swipes at Charles in the middle of this interview that was supposed to be calling for reconciliation. And so I thought that had a huge potential to blow any chance that he had. But it is promising to see these new meetings taking place. I think the reason behind it, though, is fundamentally because Harry had a clear out, and Meghan had a clear out of their PR team on both sides of the Atlantic. They brought new people in who have come with new energy and a real determination to move the dial in terms of public opinion, move the dial in terms of media coverage of the Sussexes, and that comes with it, move the dial in terms of the relationship with the palace.
And so we know what's happened so far. We know that the meetings happened. We've had this report about the diary being shared. What do you expect may happen with this situation now down the line in terms of Harry coming here, him having face-to-face possibly with the King?
I think he's trying to get reconciliation before the king goes. I mean, he did obviously say in that BBC interview, I don't know how much longer my father has left, and obviously dropped a bunch more bombshells in that interview, which wasn't that long ago. So it's kind of crazy now that they're trying to share diary slots and trying to figure out how he can kind of get back in with the royal fold, because Queen Elizabeth II did say, you can't have it both ways. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out royals. I don't want that. And I think that this is really betraying what she wanted for them. They need to choose. I just don't agree with this hybrid situation. They're like typical millennial royals who want to do like gig economy jobs in the royal family or something. I don't exactly know what their whole plan is. It's a very confused strategy. And I do agree that they've got a better team who's clearly trying to fashion something out of this. But I just think it's a very confused, dilapidated thing, and I don't see it going anywhere.
You don't think we'll see them in the room together? You don't think we'll see Harry and the King actually sit down in the coming months?
I think there's a chance we will, but I do think Charles is going to need to be slightly dragged into it. I think Charles got to a point after his diagnosis where I think he took a decision that he needed to protect his peace and that his younger son was causing him a significant amount of stress and anxiety in his life. And so he took a decision that he needed to focus on his health and getting back to the place that he needed to be. And that meant not exhaustingly spending all of his time kind of running around after Harry. And so Harry is going to have to show Charles that having a relationship is not going to be exhausting and draining for him. If Harry's serious about wanting to repair that relationship. And so it's going to have to be softly, and Harry's probably going to have to soak some stuff up along the way. Charles has soaked up a huge amount of pain, and without turned the other cheek, not fought back, except in small ways like Frogmore Cottage, taking Frogmore Cottage away. And it's Harry's turn. Harry's going to have to soak up a lot as well.
It's funny, just anecdotally, that's reminded me of one of the saddest lines in Spare that really stayed with me. It's right at the beginning. It's just really reminded me.
I already know what you're going to say, but say it.
I always think about it because it was before the King was diagnosed with cancer, as far as we know, because this goes back a couple of years. And Harry writes himself that Charles looked at him and William and said, "Please, boys, don't make my final years a misery." Now, I thought of that when you just said that, because it is. I mean, we've seen, assuming that Harry's account of that is true, which I mean, no reason to doubt that line. That does say a lot about his character and how he's viewing these final years, and then you add cancer to that, and that changes. Sorry, that just reminded me.
No, it's the fact that you even know that, because Spare was a publication full of dirty laundry of the royal family, something I don't think the King should just forget easily, and I certainly don't think William is going to forget easily. So the publication of Spare, what you know that he said, the nitty-gritty details of Harry's upbringing, that's stuff that you can't just sort of say, "Oh, I'm really sorry, but I'd like to be friends now. Sorry about that." I think that it's horrible, and I really, really think it's going to take a lot more from Harry's side and concessions on coming from him. Like you said, the King made obviously a lot, but I didn't see a lot from Harry's side. So I just don't think he's actually mature enough to start accepting what his future might look like.